Hi, welcome to the Drama Free Living Podcast. Lisa, let's talk about power of connection.
Power of connection, reaching for real relationships.
Yeah, and almost like, have you ever felt like one up or one down in a relationship?
Or
right?
in an interaction.
Yeah, and it happens super quick.
Yeah.
And so we want to kind of talk about that. Like how do we attach, and really how do we live more fulfilled and really more productive so we don't have this burnout, overwhelm, right? All of this stress that kind of happens.
Yeah, the whole avoidant attachment and anxious attachment, and then you get into fight and flight and freeze, and then it just gets complicated because you cannot get yourself out.
Right, and then you have all of this emotional waste that happens in interactions, and then your productivity stops, right?
Well,
your productivity decreases. Yeah.
And you don't get any. The whole reason you had this conversation is mute because there's too much stuff flying around, and you really can't be effective because then at that point you're not sure what way is up.
Yeah, so let's kind of talk about those things, right? You know, listen, I was talking to somebody last night, and you know, he's in this. We're just talking about relationships, maybe just like marriages for a minute, right? And so he's in this relationship, and he basically feels super anxious when his spouse is like upset or mad or irritated, right?
The old attachment style.
Yeah, well,
game.
and I asked him, I said, what if your spouse could be angry, frustrated, irritated, and you just be peaceful?
What if your boss could be angry, frustrated, and irritated, and you could be peaceful?
You can be peaceful.
What if?
Right? And he almost looked at me like I had three heads. Because
you do have three heads?
Sometimes I do, but it's almost like outside of some people's paradigm, right? So really, this is going to really apply to any kind of relationship. It could be, it could be children.
Parent, child. Coworker.
We want to kind of focus on the workplace, but really it's this idea that, you got to own your own stuff and own you. And when you're able to do that, you're able to connect with others.
Right. It's that power of connection. It's reaching for real relationships so you can connect and get stuff done or be real with each other and not have all of this collateral damage.
Yeah, because I think we're wired for a relationship, right? We're totally wired for a relationship. And many times I think sort of what happens is we have like these barriers. We have like different fears, right? Or different trust issues. And really it's like these kind of things show up in all of our relationships. And so what I love, and a lot of times, Lisa, like in our workshops, I mean, we've seen this. People always ask us when we're talking about a principle or working through a tool, they go, okay, you're talking personal or professional? Right?
Yes. The answer is always yes.
The answer is always yes, right?
Because it just flows. Your life flows. You are not compartments. You are not, this is my personal bot, and this is my professional bot, and this is my parent bot. You're not that way. You are in all of your worlds.
Yeah, because listen, you're listening to podcasts right now. I know you have the same problem that Dennis and Lisa both have. Like my big problem is simply, maybe I just speak for myself, not for you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
But my big problem, Dennis's big problem is everywhere I go, there I am. Right. And it's ridiculous for me to think that, I kick the dog, I yell at my wife, I scream at the kids. I don't show up at work being Mr. Happy.
Well, and the deal is we put on our professional hat.
Yeah.
And we show up professional, but all of that stuff is still boiling up underneath.
Yeah.
And it actually does affect. So it will affect us, with anxious attachment. It'll show up because we'll be unsure. Should I present this idea? I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
Or we could do this avoidant attachment kind of thing where it's like, I'm just gonna kind of wall off. And either way, you don't give the best you. And even when you've got your professional hat on and you come across and everybody's like, wow, they are polished. They have got their game together. It's still there.
Yeah.
It's still there. And then it all comes out. Hopefully it all comes out in your personal side, or it could just still be shoved down and it doesn't come out anywhere. And well, that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah. And think about like how many times people wear these masks or try to present this image, right? And Lisa, I was talking to somebody and, a lot of people say like, and would you agree with this? Is like asking for help is kind of hard to do.
I think so. For me, it is. And that's my own dysfunctionalism.
Well, and everybody that I talk to, Lisa, they all say the same thing. It's hard to ask for help. Okay. So if it's hard to ask for help, why do we feel like we're being weak when we ask for help? Right. A lot of times I ask for help and I don't want to ask for help because, I don't want to appear weak. But it's a hard thing to do.
Well,
So
can
if it's
I
a
just
hard
say
thing
you're
to do-
human? So, do you have moments of weakness and you
Yeah.
have moments of strength? And when we don't ask for help because we don't want to appear weak, we make it so the other people that we're with also don't want to ask for help because they don't want to appear weak because we're all just showing up as like not true pictures of ourselves.
Well,
And then how do we do anything? How do we actually truly get stuff done?
Well, and then you really don't get the help you need, Lisa. I'm just thinking about, I mean, unfortunately, we've been doing roundtables for 7 or 8 years.
Did you say, unfortunately, we've been doing roundtables?
Let me start over. Okay.
All right. You go.
Right. So we've been doing roundtables for 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking through like different people, different participants, and most people stay for years on end. But there are certain people that come in for a year and then they don't continue. And this is not true for every participant, but I'm just thinking about some unfortunate people that did come in and they sort of presented an image and they wore a mask.
Right.
And then they never really got the help.
Right. And what we do for clarification for our roundtables, these are professionals, they're CEOs, they're really high-performing individuals, and we all come in, they come in and they present, this is the biggest challenge for me professionally, or it could be personally, this quarter that I really want to tackle. Well, the thing that we have really driven into them is, let's really get to the issue. Let's not say, hey, my org chart is kind of messed up. Let's really get to the issue of, hey,
I don't want to have a hard conversation with my partner because I think the org chart needs to be changed.
Right.
That's that hard conversation. That's the real
And
challenge.
so that's what we're talking about is when you don't bring the real issue up as the issue, how can you fix it?
Yeah.
It's like if your P&L is just really messed up, and you can't just go and make more money. And if you think the problem is, hey, I just need to go make more money, and your P&L is really messed up, then you're throwing a solution to the wrong question.
Yeah, and how many times do we do that? It's like we haven't even really identified the real problem. And and I'm just thinking about 3 people in particular that have been a part of the roundtable, and with all 3 of them, they really just wouldn't go to that place of like transparency and vulnerability. It's almost like they went to the precipice of it and then they just wouldn't sort of open up anymore and they got limited help. And it's almost like me going to the doctor and kind of hiding my sickness, hiding my pain.
My foot hurts and you don't let them look at
Right.
it.
Right. Why, and so it's this idea that it really takes courage to do this.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what we're talking about, the power of connection, because if I can connect better, I can collaborate better. And then my results just go through the roof. My contribution really goes through the roots. And it's this idea of I connect so I can collaborate, so I can contribute even better. It's sort of these 3 C's: connect, collaborate, and then you contribute. But you don't contribute until you can connect and collaborate.
Yeah.
Right. And the collaborations look so like different right. We have team members that are on our team that we're collaborating with. You and I have a collaboration. Yeah. Right. Heck, we collaborated together and had 4 kids. What a great collaboration. What a great contribution to the world.
And then we stopped having kids.
Yeah. Now we just have grandkids, which are so much more enjoyable.
Grandkids are the best.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about maybe practical.
But what I appreciate about that is about what you said about connection and collaboration is we think that we're collaborating and we think that we are just really giving of ourselves and giving our knowledge and our best, but if we're not really connecting, we're always holding a little bit back. And we could be holding a little bit back because maybe there's competition in the workplace and somebody else is going to steal your idea and you really don't trust them and you don't trust that you're going to get the credit for it. I mean, there's so many complexities to it.
Yeah. And really, I think that's why it's so important to think about like, how do we create safe places for people? This psychological safety. And I think that's one of the leader's big responsibilities.
Yeah, psychological safety in the workplace.
Yeah, it is huge. Even psychological safety between, a leader and their team, but also even within team members. And when you see sort of the safety start to erode, I think that's an enemy. But so many leaders, they don't go after it. They don't go after that safety.
Okay, but so many leaders don't even have this recognition that an area is unsafe. Yeah. Or that there needs to be safety. Yeah. And so the first thing is awareness on that.
Yeah. So it's almost like when I see complaining, it's a sign of, unsafety. If I see gossip, right? If I see retaliation,
Yeah.
right? If I see like people trying to be one up or one down with each other, right?
Explain one up and one down.
Okay,
I know what it is, but let's go into it real briefly.
Yeah. So it is like, when I overpower you, I come into a situation, it's command and demand, and I'm overpowering you.
And
right?
that is typically because maybe you don't feel like you can stand in your place. And so you feel like you have to control, or you feel like you have to overpower just to be able to be settled in yourself.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's all based on insecurity.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like you mask that insecurity with pride, with being one up on people.
And it can be manipulative, but it can be masked in humility.
Which is even worse.
Because you're coming across as like super humble and
kind. I want to help you.
And it's really that I want to control you, and I want to let me come in and let me help you on this project. We can do this together. But really what you're doing is you're wanting to control the outcomes. You're wanting to control the path of it.
Yeah.
But it's masked in humility. And it's a tricky game.
It's a tricky game. And I think at the end of the day, it's like we've always sort of working on this thing of like, how do I feel about this, right? So if I can come across like one up or overpowering, you always tell me after that interaction, you're like, yeah, that just kind of felt yucky. It kind of felt icky.
Yeah, I felt like you were trying to push your ideas or push yourself on
right.
me.
And so you're going to know it in your emotions. So anytime that you feel like that ickiness, right, you just kind of walk away from an interaction, you just kind of feel icky. It just means that maybe there's a one up, one down in play.
And then one down means that basically it's kind of like a submissive position. Yeah. Or it can be a giving up, or it can be an apathetic position.
Or it could be a walling off.
Yes.
Or it could be silence.
And walling off means like you're distancing yourself.
Yeah.
Could be silence. And that's kind of like a one down or a less than position. And when you are in that position, when you put yourself in that position, you really are silenced, whether it's you silencing yourself or you letting someone else silence you. And so typically when you get in that situation of one up and one down, or there's, control and silencing, somebody is taking the position of the head and someone else is taking the position of the underneath, and you're not actually working side by side. And so there's not a true collaboration of this is what I think, this is what you think. And there is tension. There is tension when two people have differing opinions.
Yeah.
You want to mow the grass in stripes, and I want to mow the grass in like that crossing
I don't even know what
pattern,
it's called, right? Yeah.
The X's.
Yeah.
And those are just two different ways of doing things. Is one right or wrong? No, I mean, it depends on if it's a golf course or not. But when you're doing that, there is a tension of it's got to be done, and it has to be done, and it can't be done both ways.
Yeah.
But there doesn't have to be that, okay, well, we're going to do it this way because
I'm trying to overpower you with my idea. Yeah.
Right. It's more of, okay, well, what's more effective? What's more effective? Or what's quicker? Or who's the one actually going to do the job? And the person doing the job, well, let them do it however they want.
Yeah.
And so there's a way to separate out that tension of ways to do different things, and it not be manipulating and controlling and submissive and apathy.
Yeah. And Lisa, I think the thing that I've discovered is that nobody's died because of tension. Right?
Never say nobody. Because I don't agree with that. Because there probably have been people that have died because of attention.
Maybe one or two. Okay.
No, seriously. No, that's a real deal.
Yeah.
Tension and anxiety, I mean, it really does kill people. I mean, it gives heart issues. And so.
All right. It's this idea that you can live in the tension, though, that the tension is okay. And isn't it amazing? We were in a workshop together, and we talked about it afterwards, is that I was working with one person individually, and there was like 200 people in the room. So if you've ever been in, one of my keynotes, sort of what happens, they become like sort of group therapy. It might be like 300-400 people in the room, but we'll just sort of bring somebody up and just work with one person. And as I'm working with them and asking the questions, there's this tension.
It's more like a group coaching session.
It's than group. Right. And it's like there's this tension with this person. And isn't it amazing, like so many times, like people in the room, audience members try to give the answer, this or this. And it's almost like they're trying to relieve the tension. And I think sometimes I need the tension to come up with my own answer. I
So
need to
we were
sit
so
in
we
that
were
a
in
little bit.
Virginia, and this happened
Yeah.
recently,
Yeah.
and there was what 150 people in the
Something
room,
like that,
maybe,
yeah.
and all very high, very very high performing professionals. And that's one of the situations you're talking about.
Yeah.
And so, in order to drive a point home, you're just working with one person. It's
And everybody can relate to it. What's funny is like, right? That's everybody could relate to what this person.
It's called parallel learning.
Yeah.
Parallel learning when you are kind of talking through this is how it works for me, or if I'm dealing with you, and we're saying, okay, let's just take this as an example, and you all can learn from it what you can. It's parallel learning. You can learn from what that situation is.
Yeah.
And a lot of people shared after this parallel learning event that they felt extremely uncomfortable because you were asking this person to really figure out truly the answer, what they thought, how they felt, what the true issue was, and you weren't accepting kind of a pat answer.
Right.
You wanted, no, let's really get to the issue. And you were kind of pushing on that wound. You were pushing that button. And it was difficult, and there was tension there.
But the tension had a purpose. And I think that's the thing is like, what's the purpose for if you feel tension today, it's like, what's the purpose for the tension? And get the value, or get the sort of like allow it to uncover what the real problem is. And a lot of people, they don't do that.
Right. Now, there can be tension that is just unnecessary. But there can be tension of it's the tension of collaboration, and tension of collaboration does have a purpose.
Yeah, and so Lisa, we don't have a lot of time now. Now, listen, if you're listening, you go, man, I can really relate to this, and I really hear what you're saying, and I kind of need some help. Listen, we don't want to leave you alone. Okay, we don't want to just leave you and go, here's the problem. So. One thing that Lisa and I created was Emotionally Intelligent. It's really our elite communication system for collaboration. And so we'd love for you. We're going to put some notes and link to the show notes. And listen, you actually get like a free workbook with it. It's not just a digital product. And you also get a coaching session with it. So you're going to be able to go through the content and then jump on a call with one of our coaches and walk through your own personal scenarios and really get the specific and customized help that you really need and you really deserve, instead of just this pat sort of answer. So it really is our elite communication system. So if you've been listening to this and you're thinking, oh man, this is really helpful, or I could really use some help, just check that out. It'll be there in the show notes. Yeah.
And you can chat with our coach, and our coach will just kind of walk you through that area that you're stuck and be like, okay, let's help you figure it out. Because a lot of times, I mean, really, you can't do life alone, and you can't fix your problems alone. I mean, you didn't graduate from high school without having a whole lot of teachers and a whole lot of instructors and coaches and even peers help you get through it. And that's how the issues of life are.
Well,
you need other people to kind of see from the outside, because you can't read the label when you're inside the bottle. You got to have somebody outside of the bottle looking in and being like, hey, your thumb hurts because you've got a splinter in it and you can't even see it. Oh, well, thanks.
Yeah. So let's get to the splinter quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And really, Lisa, that's the point of like our entire podcast, right? Is that you don't
get to the splinter.
Get to it, right?
Let's get the splinter out.
Well, you don't heal alone.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like you don't get well alone. And that's the whole idea of reaching for relationships and really connecting so that you become the best version of yourself, that you really mature into that person that God has created you to be, right? Whatever that looks like, your authentic self, where you're not putting on a mask or putting on an image, and you're really living authentically, because nothing connects with people like authenticity.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing.
Yeah. And, it's kind of interesting. We actually were just talking this morning about avoidant attachment and, manipulation and control and things like that. And we had a situation. So, we've got our front room, and that's kind of our quiet journal room. I like to call it the morning room. The morning sun comes in, and that used to be my place to go in the morning and like do brain downloads and journal and just have some quiet space and quiet time. And Dennis gets up earlier than I, and he's now discovered that room.
I've hijacked it.
He has hijacked the room. He has hijacked, which it doesn't have my name on it. So It's just as much his as mine. And so now my space is in the bedroom in bed, and I'll sit in bed while he's in the front room, and I'll just get my own time to kind of like, I'll work through my to-do list and I'll journal and just have some quiet time. And also I'll go through and I'll think about, okay, what are the emotions that are coming up right now? What's the sadness or disappointment or anger that's coming up? And just kind of giving myself time in the morning to process through that stuff, because I can't carry it into my day and be the best me.
Yeah.
And so, but the thing is Dennis came in and he was getting stuff off of the dresser and he was being really quiet. I can do that to him. I can go into that space and I can do stuff and not talk to him and it doesn't bother him.
Yeah.
I think, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But he cannot come into my space and be quiet and not look at me and it not bother me, because I'll be like, whoop. I mean, my brain is like right on there, and my train of thought is incredibly gone. Yeah. And so I told him, I said, listen, I need you to leave because I'm trying to have this space. And what I told him was, you hijacked the morning room and it's now your space, and I need to be able to have my space. And after we had that interaction, and I thought, okay, I'm being honest, I'm just laying it out there. After I had that interaction, I realized, you know what? That was not the best interaction, because I was going one down, and I was being oppressed, and therefore I was the victim, and I was kind of angry about it. And I was letting him know in a very calm, professional manner that nobody else would know. I was letting him know, I'm kind of angry that you have hijacked the morning room. And also I'm kind of angry that you've come in and you're interrupting my space. And I need that alone space to just decompress and go through. And afterward, we talked about it, and I was like, yeah, I did not do that well. And I had to come to him and like, hey, I am really sorry. I communicated it, but I also communicated with a little bit of anger in a very professional way.
Well,
but you felt it. On one hand, you felt like, hey, you really appreciated me sharing.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, it felt icky.
Yeah. Well, in Lisa, and I think here's sort of like the key, and this is why for everybody, you have to show up as your best self. You have to show up the best version of yourself, Lisa, because when you shared that with me, I didn't get defensive, right?
No, you did great.
Right. I let you share it. And I didn't get to, and if I would have gotten defensive,
we would have spiraled.
Right.
We may or may not have. It depends on how I would have responded.
Yeah. But I didn't get defensive, and I just let you be you. Right. And I didn't let any inner turmoil sort of occur. So I felt like I had to, and allowed you to process it. Right. And allowed you to show up as the best version of yourself, because I didn't sort of jump into, I wasn't right.
Okay. But then later on the drive here, we were talking about it, and you were like, man, I just really feel dysregulated about our conversation this morning.
Yeah.
And so while you think, you didn't get defensive and you responded really well to me and let me just say that and walk away, then when we were actually on the way here, you were like, I'm actually really messed up because of that interaction.
Well, and I think—
And tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I think here's the thing, right, is that if you don't process your pain, you live your pain.
Yeah.
Right. And so you had a time where you processed your pain, like in the morning and on the drive, here into the studio. Like I just felt like I was just sort of
Well, but hang on here.
Yeah.
But I didn't actually fully process my pain because I lived my pain and I gave it to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
When in reality, all I really needed to say was, hey, I'm just kind of having my alone time. Would you mind leaving?
Yeah.
And that's all I needed to say. But I proceeded to let him know that he's hijacked my morning room. And so I actually didn't process my pain.
That's
and
good.
Even though it came across very professional, I still gave you yuck.
Well, and what I meant by processing your pain is, as we were coming into the car, right, is that you thought about it and you owned your stuff and you apologized. You were able to process, right? And so, but here's the thing. So many people, they just stuff that stuff.
Yeah.
They stuff it.
Or they dump it and dump it and dump it. And neither one is good.
Yeah. And if you can't process pain quickly, it's almost like the faster you can process pain, the faster you can learn. And that's the idea. So listen, if you have trouble processing pain, it's part of why we created Emotionally Intelligent, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't process pain well, and then you don't communicate well. It's why it's the elite communication system.
Yeah.
It's not a bunch of like to-dos, say this and this. It really helps you process like your own internal story so that you communicate even better. At least we don't have a lot of time. Lisa, do you want to go through really quick just some practical steps about how to develop like deep communication?
Sure.
And deeper communication. So one thing that we kind of came up with is, practicing empathy, which I think you're kind of a master at this in my mind, right? Is really understanding, like you look out and like, hey, what do people need? Identify with their struggles. And it really kind of softens people's hearts and builds connection. It's almost like you let people have their space to share their story without any judgment.
Right.
You kind of get in the well with them instead of giving advice.
Yeah.
And, I think, so just think through is like, how can you get in people's well with them instead of like just jumping in? So practicing empathy.
Yeah.
Another one is just saying yes to relationship. Right? Almost about being intentional about building a relationship, right? At least we have a friend group. And one thing that we're working on, we always try to like every week just put something out there. Hey, let's play a game. Let's go to a ball game. Let's get together for dinner.
Not only that do we so this Friday we're going to a baseball game together, and it's exciting. And so we have a lot of fun together, but also we all know each other's dirt.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have any secrets. And so because when you live with secrets, you can tend to live with shame, and then it turns to manipulation and control, or it can turn into oppression. And so I don't think there's anything in my life that is a secret to this group, or that I haven't told you. So living without secrets, and that's part of saying yes to relationship is there are no secrets, and so therefore there's no shame, because if you have secrets, you have shame.
Yeah, and it's hard to connect when you have secrets,
it's hard to connect when you have shame.
Yeah, and so and it kind of leads into our next one is be vulnerable. Right? Admit your needs. I mean, you have to have places where you can get your needs met. And especially as leaders, it's why we created the roundtable. Yeah. How many times do leaders, they have very few relationships or very few people that they can say, hey, this is what I need. I'm really pissed that I had a team member do this, or I'm really angry, or I'm really hurt, right? I'm hurt that, my salesperson left and took like half the book of business with him. And
that's pretty ouch.
Right. We've had a lot of these kind of discussions, but where do you share these things?
Yeah.
And you cannot give what you haven't received. And a lot of times as leaders, and we see this even in healthcare, is that we overgive, we outgive, and we haven't like stepped back and, really gotten our needs met. So being vulnerable. Yeah. And then kind of challenging distorted thinking.
Yeah.
Like this idea that like people are going to leave me. If I share my weakness, right, then people are not going to accept me. Or if I don't share my vulnerabilities, people, right? And And those
and I think Stress Converter really helps with this.
Okay. Yep. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So well, listen, we'll go ahead and put a link for Stress Converter, but it really is this.
It's totally free. So just download it and
enjoy it. It's yours.
And just work on your distorted thinking through it.
Yeah. Because what happens when I get into stress, I don't think clearly.
Yeah. And then everything's distorted, and then you can't confront those beliefs or those fears that are illogical.
Right, because you're in the emotion. And it's this idea is that when you're in the emotion of stress, you have a problem and you're in the emotion of stress.
And then you feel isolated.
Right. And then what happens is that the real problem is not really the problem. The first problem to get out of is the stress of the problem.
Yeah.
Once you get out of the emotion, because what happens is when you're in that stress emotion is that you feel paralyzed. And that's the problem. So you just sit in it, bake in it, right? Yeah. It leads to burnout, overwhelm, all of these crazy type stories that happen. So you want to get out of that emotion.
Yeah. So the Stress Converter, it just really helps you to replace those distortions with healthier perspectives. And then it allows you to approach relationships with openness and with hope, because that's really what you need. That's what I need when I want to reach for real relationships, and I really want that connection. And also when I want to kind of battle up against the attachment styles that are, anxious attachment or avoidant attachment and the others. It's being able to meet one-on-one on the same level, or as a group on the same level.
Yeah. And that's how you connect better, right? We're really after, like, let's not have adult-to-child conversations. Let's have adult-to-adult conversations, right? We're not one up, we're not one down, but it's adult-to-adult conversations. So,
well, and the thing with this is it's it's being safe and having
Yeah.
safe people and building these relationships and this trust gradually. Because you can't just jump in and be like, okay, I'm going to be totally vulnerable. It's a learning curve, and it's gradual, and every little increment helps. You didn't finish college calculus because you just learned your addition tables. It's little by little by little, and then you can be a relationship guru.
And it really is the key to drama-free living.
Yeah.
Right? It really is. So I think my big takeaway is if I don't process my pain, I'm going to live out my pain.
Mm-hmm.
And so just thinking through, how can I process pain quicker?
Yeah.
Right? Well, how can I continue to process pain quicker? Because we all go through, we just don't know it. Right? We just sort of like, as Americans, it's sort of, we have this John Wayne sort of, rugged individualist. I don't need anybody. I can make it on my own. I'm self-reliant.
Entitlement. Ouch.
Yep. And so realizing, hey, I was disappointed, or I was hurt, or, that was a loss. I mean, it could be like not even hitting a sales goal, or we didn't hit our numbers this month, or, and going, okay, well, I really feel sad about that. And, and just processing through that, getting it out so that I can think clearly to move forward to create like next steps. So that whole idea, if I don't process my pain, I'm going to live out my pain.
Yeah.
What about you, Lisa?
So for me, this is, it's a gradual process, and I am going to be learning and growing and changing until the day I die.
Yeah.
If I think that I've arrived and I know how to have collaborative relationships and I've, just got it all figured out, then I should probably be dead, because I'm human. But what happens is we always have room for growth and change and for being better. And when we do that, and when we have that mindset that I don't have it all figured out, like I thought I was doing pretty good. And then I went and I just really evaluated our interaction this morning, and I thought, wow, that was actually that was kind of yucky. Yeah. And I've been working on this for years. And so, but it's gradual, step by step, a little bit better every time. And when we do that, our relationships get better, and our life gets better, and our families and our connections and our businesses.
Yeah, they do. So listen, Power of Connection, reach for real relationships. If you need some help with it, we have EI, we have a resource, we have a coach, can help you really connect with people and really live the life that you are destined to live, and really live fulfilled and really more happy and less drama.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that's all for now. Thank you for being with us on the Drama Free Living Podcast.